All right. Understanding flow and creating a inducive environment. Explore the concept of flow and discuss creating a flow-inducive environment and routine. So, I know from my own life, writing, teaching classes, doing talks, being on podcasts, doing private sessions, one-on-one, and group healings, there's a dependency on flow that I can't live without. And that's because the energy that sustains us is not our own energy. Yes, we have to sleep well and eat right and take care of our bodies, but this creative flow that we need to really feel inspired is something that we really channel and we have to be vehicles for. I remember there's a big boulevard in Los Angeles, La Cienega, and I was driving down, this was many years ago, and I had said yes. As a consultant, you kind of say yes to any project that comes. Many drop off and don't turn out to be what you thought they were. And so I had said yes to too many work projects. And the anticipation of driving from one to the next, and all of them thought I was, their only focus. This was getting to me to the point where it was starting to cause serious anxiety, and I felt myself nearing panic attacks. And I really reached a point in that situation where I had to pull over. I was driving, and then I felt all of this anxiety rush up, and I had to make a decision. I was either going to have a panic attack or I was going to let go. Fortunately, at the time, I didn't have the tool set that I have now. Fortunately, my body said, let go. It just wouldn't be good to go into that state of overwhelm. And so this surrender, you've heard of that term, released me of so much anxiety and tension and overwhelm of trying to anticipate every possible outcome, every possible permutation of what somebody might say in the next meeting, what I have to do after that, and all of this story, narrative, this pressure, this incredible weight I had created for myself in trying to essentially predict the future. That's what it is. If I asked you, can you predict the future? You'd say, of course not. But this is what we're essentially doing all the time by trying to anticipate what might happen. And then it happens differently, and then we're in resistance to it. There's such, even from a rational place, is such absurdity to be in resistance to something that's already happened. It'll never change by you being in resistance to it. So all this pressure came off, and I realized, oh my gosh, I have so much more bandwidth. I could do twice as many projects, 3 times as many. I felt limitless. And that was kind of the beginning of some of those glimpses of the beginnings of my journey into mindfulness and recognizing really what fuels us. So passion and nurture and self-care, many of the things that are frowned upon, right? Self-care being selfish, being too self-driven, too self-centered is not typically something that's considered a good thing. So in that experience, I learned to surrender and let go, and then suddenly this big blast of energy came through me, and then I sought out to understand that better. Essentially, it was getting out of my own way. It was stopping trying to predict the future. It was stopping believing my thoughts. All these thoughts about what was going to happen, what might happen, what I should do if in case it happens. This was me believing these thoughts, giving them my attention and letting them own me, letting them control me. This is what most of my energy, I realized, was being sucked up by. It's my thoughts, my attachment to thoughts. I didn't have a choice at that point to decide, okay, here's a thought. Am I going to give it my attention? Is it beneficial? Does it feel uplifting? If yes, I might choose to do that. But is it stressful? Is it overwhelming? Is it negative? I didn't have the choice yet to say no to those kind of thoughts. But we have that choice, every single one of us. We are not our thoughts. You've heard this before. But if you can observe a thought, which anyone can, just if you spend a second, a moment going, there's a thought, well then clearly you're not your thoughts. If Same thing applies to feelings. If you can observe your feelings, oh, like I feel it here, I feel it there, and I feel it here in my back of the neck or something, well, then you're also not your thoughts, your feelings. So if you're not your thoughts and you're not your feelings, what are you? Anyone? Yeah, take a guess. Consciousness. Yeah. The big word. Consciousness. Consciousness, awareness, presence, witness state, receiving mode. These are all words that describe what we really are, our true essence. We're not our name, we're not this body, we're not our career, we're not the person others think we are or that we hope to be. All of these things exist in this container that we are a witness of, but we rarely catch a glimpse of that witness, nor do we nurture that witness, that awareness of what's happening to us. And when we can live from this awareness, then everything shifts, everything changes. Life is happening through you. You are observing thoughts coming and going. You're observing feelings rising and passing. They no longer own you. They no longer control you. You're no longer at the mercy of your environment for how you feel. In other words, you're free. This is the state of true freedom. And in that state of true freedom, flow happens, creativity happens. You become a larger vessel, you might have heard that term before, for life to happen in and through. So, how we organize our day, our routines of how we approach our day, these are instrumental in supporting and facilitating flow to happen. If we are in a cramped space full of noise, full of other people constantly tapping you on the shoulder, every single time somebody taps you on the shoulder, it's the only thing I remember from grad school. It takes 23 minutes to return back to that moment of focus that you were in before they tap you on the shoulder, let alone had a conversation about last night's TV show. And this is how we can also constantly interrupt ourselves. We have our own routines in place, but if we're checking phones here and switching to a different browser tab there, we're doing the same thing to ourselves. Every time we interrupt ourselves, we take ourselves out of this flow, out of that point of focus for an extra 23 minutes. So having the discipline and the awareness of what you're doing so that you can align yourself with flow-creating environments, flow-creating people, is key. It's just the key. You can keep fighting and fighting, but with awareness, you can very quickly spot, okay, this is what I'm doing that keeps interrupting my flow. These are the people I give my attention to that keep interrupting flow. And most importantly, these are the thoughts that I keep giving my attention to that keep interrupting the flow. Okay. So the first exercise here is to reflect both on your current workspace, and just for yourselves, you can use your journal, you can use your phones or whatever you want. Just think about it. We're going to, just for a minute, think about what you can do in your environment to facilitate greater flow. And then we're going to share. We're going to share this one, right? Okay. All right, so just for a minute, think about your environment as it is. Okay. Can you share? Oh, yeah.
I'm really working much right now.
Perfect.
Which is lovely.
Nice.
And I'm stressed and anxious. I'm like, what the heck? I'm not working. I'm why am I feeling this? So, but the thing that comes up when I do some creative work is that it's hot. I'm outside and it's hot. So potentially I could go somewhere with air conditioning when the next project comes in,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can be in my flow and not sweating
Mm-hmm.
so profusely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's exactly mine as well. I know that there's a limit to when I'm in humidity. I tap out after an hour and a half, 2 hours. And if I want a session, a working session that's longer, and when you're writing a book or starting a project, whatever it may be, you need bigger blocks. The ideal block is a 4-hour block. And so I go to 8 places with AC just when I know that that's my objective. So that's perfect. Yeah, awesome. Anyone else? What would you like to say?
I must almost laugh about it because it says workspace and I'm thinking very big. So I'm currently starting a freelance online speed coaching business. And on one hand, I have total freedom to do what I want because I'm on a 1-year road trip. On the other hand, my old patterns are kicking in all the time. So I could flow 24/7, but then the interruption always comes in. You can. You should have made more progress by now. You need to document more. You need to, I don't know, all these thoughts coming in and interrupting me all the time. And if it takes 23 minutes, I've lost some hours already. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it is that busy mind that it doesn't matter where we go in the world, it's going to follow us and it's going to inject itself. We'll be doing a meditation later today to help with that. But the awareness of it is already huge. That's 50% of the way, is to notice and be aware, this is my busy mind again. And that awareness helps to diffuse it, and it sets you on the path to calming it. There's so many paradoxes in life and the way the brain, in particular mind, works. And so if your mind is busy, for example, the way you calm it is not by wanting it to be calm. You calm a busy mind by accepting that it's busy. And so our resistance to things is what fuels these things. What you resist persists, there's a saying. And so the awareness of it, okay, this is what's happening, this is what I'm feeling, these are the sensations in my body, this is where I feel triggered, this is where I'm judging what somebody says or what I'm reading. This awareness is already huge, huge. This is what most people struggle to establish, just living with awareness. Everything becomes diffused. All that energy, that overwhelm that I described earlier in my early experiences, it's 5% less is already a huge improvement. It's tangible, real relief. 10%, 20%, and so forth. My experience, the narrative that we put on a situation, on our feelings or circumstances, are 90 to 95% of our energy. This gets absorbed by our reaction to feeling a certain way, our reaction to the reality of the moment being different than what we expected, what we tried to predict the future of. That is where most of our energy goes. And we spend most of our time, in fact, lost in thought about creating these illusions, these projections, these expectations in the first place. If you're spending 50 to 70% of the day, that's what research shows, thinking about stuff that's completely irrelevant to the task at hand, and going down rabbit holes, and then those thoughts have little baby thoughts and keep you going deeper and deeper, and then often it's your own mind that says, this is so nuts, and then you snap out of it. But this is how we are living extremely inefficient and unproductive lives, constantly interrupting ourselves. This mental lens through which we see everything is constantly validating everything we hear. We can't even observe and experience a tree. We have to label it as something. Just experience its presence. Somebody comes to you and starts a conversation. They're looking to express a need. Recognize the need. Don't filter everything they're saying against your own truth structure, and now you're kind of injecting yourselves, and now you're butting heads, energetically at least, even if you crack a smile. So there's a lot of inefficiency there. Meditation, mindfulness, mindful living is not about just sitting and being a doormat and letting everything just kind of happen and life trampling all over you. It's about the path of least resistance. It's about absolute efficiency and productivity. How can I accept the moment as it is, not burn any additional energy on what I thought it should be, and then from there take action to turn it into what I do want it to be. That is the path of least resistance. That is the most efficient, productive way to move through life. It's just to see it as it is and then take action from there. So you have a baseline of the tools, the elements that this particular playground of this present moment presents you with. And you're playing with what's real. All right, anyone else?
I think I have two. One is the phone.
Uh-huh.
That's straightforward. But the other one is self-doubt. It's like these thoughts of, this is not good enough. And then you just stop creating because you're contradicting yourself.
Yeah. So both of those are huge. Phone is such a huge interruption. I run retreats and I do semi-silent retreats, so noble silence in the mornings till 11 a.m. And everyone that goes to these, they're 7 to 8 day retreats, meditation retreats, everyone that leaves, that's the one thing they want to take away and implement when they go back home, is noble silence, stillness. Stay off of your phone as long as you can. If it's not till 11 a.m., till 10 a.m., till 9 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever it is, just try to stretch it out till the first call of the day or meeting, whatever is necessary, and stay off of your phones. There's a blessing in the morning of our minds having been quieted naturally overnight in our sleep. And we have this productive time in the morning where we're still connected to source in a certain way, and we're still open, we're in a receiving state. And the moment we reach for that phone or go on social media, it's just like all this noise comes rushing in. So that's something very practical and very easy we can do. I'm not saying give up on it. That's the other end, those who get to a point where you just completely close down your account, but rather just extend the period in the morning that you can stay media free. Even just an extra half hour will do wonders. You need to come back out of the state of reactivity. We live in a world that is constantly trying to elicit a reaction from us. Some kind of response of right and wrong, good and bad, for me, against me. This constant reactivity. This reactivity keeps us lodged in our head, and this is where all the craziness happens. This is where we give these thoughts meaning. And this is also where, and that's your second point, where we have these self-doubts that we're not good enough. It's one of the core wounds, is to feel like we're not good enough. And yet we stem from source. We are complete underneath all those layers of self-doubt and self-criticism, that inner critic. There is a whole soul, and we're just going through a human experience, and we have to learn to release these layers of limiting beliefs. Ultimately, every belief is a limiting belief. Everything is possible, and then we come along and we just believe in this and this and this and this, and then out of the handful of things that we believe in, we think we're going to find ourselves in that, and we're trying to control and steer everything along the way. It's a really inefficient and thankless way to go. It's a hard road to travel. When you are in a state of awareness, mindfulness, this distance to things, this identification with thoughts keeps you at a distance. It keeps you feeling separate. I'm over here and the tree's over there. I'm saying, this is me, and this thing that I judge or label or define is over there, and there's a distance between us. And we go through every single day and we create separateness hundreds and thousands of times with everything that the mind labels. We rarely experience things anymore, the presence of each other. Presence brings you in. That's inclusive energy. It pulls you in. You can feel it. But instead, we're judging, we're labeling, we're validating, and you can see how that distances you. And so in that distancing, we start to feel small and lonely and scared and anxious, like it's us against the world. And that's where the self-doubt and the feeling like you're not good enough lives. And it's just because you're experiencing yourself as separate from the whole. And ultimately, we're all from the same source. We're all connected. And the closer we come again to each other, the closer you come to yourself and that source. And these are just thoughts. When you believe them, they're real. But when you can come out of them, when you're aware of them, then this thought of I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, falls away and it dissolves. And then the greater trust of flowing with the greater current starts to become the dominant vibration. And from there, you're in a good place. Anyone else? There.
I would say Projektmanagement, you look too far in the future. So for myself, I'm like a 3D artist freelancing, and at the beginning I planned really long ahead, and that was a huge problem. And then I just started to just like ignore the future and just like focusing on the next days. That's where I got much more productive.
Okay. Wonderful. And there's nothing wrong with planning per se. It's the attachment to your plans. Right? And certainly if you get way out there, way out into the future, then it kind of completely loses its purpose. But it's okay to plan. It's okay to feel called in a particular direction and you kind of see a picture, oh, it looks like this is where I'm headed, and you feel called to do some things to get there, take action. But then be prepared to let go of that when it shows itself differently. You can fight life all you want, and that is going to be the experience you get, right? Fight and antagonism and hard and trudging through your week just to get to the weekend and then numb out. You can have that experience, or you can learn to accept, see things as they are, take action from that baseline of acceptance, and create real positive, tangible results. And it's also a lot easier. It takes so much work to be in misery, to be in resistance to everything that happens, my thoughts, and to go down rabbit holes, and it affects your health and your sleep and your mental acuity. It's a really hard way to live. You wonder why we do it. It's so much easier to, okay, this is the reality of the situation. All right, let's see what the elements are. What is it calling? It actually speaks to you. It's like, okay, this is what needs to happen here. Not just for yourself, some selfish need, but for the collective good. There's the unfolding of life that's happening. And like, how can you contribute? Sometimes it's not contributing. Sometimes it tells you step back and let it happen without you. Other times it's like, say this or do that, set boundaries, create, and co-create with this unfolding of life in front of you. So much easier and fun and exciting, embracing the unknown, not being afraid of it. It's like, oh, I'm so afraid of the future, that all these things that could happen, the coulds and the shoulds and the ifs, what ifs, but rather going, I can't wait to see what happens next. There's newness, there's freshness, there's magic, the unexpected. That is what creativity is, that is what flow is. And then you learn to trust that, because the greatest life you can imagine is not something that you make up with your mind. It's something that you cannot imagine. It's when you get out of your own way and you don't use this mind. All right, let's move on. Mindful task selection. Okay. It's okay to plan. It's okay to have to-do lists. I create them too. It's so important to stay connected to joy. You have to feel inspired by what you're doing. It's not worth doing if it isn't. It's just not. Something's not right. Don't even attempt to do it. If there's not a seed of inspiration, of curiosity, if you can't connect to it, like, I'll grow in this way, or I'll get to express myself this way. Life gets to express itself through me in a certain way. This is, many have described it in different terms, follow your bliss, Joseph Campbell. Stay connected to joy, and you know you're on the right track. It's that simple. It's not something we're taught. We're taught to roll up our sleeves and just get through the day and just begrudgingly accept whatever we're given. Life doesn't want us to live that way. It makes no sense even by just thinking about it. You get unhealthy, you age faster, you're just stressed. Stress is the number one health issue for everything, inflammation. So to pick your tasks, and sometimes that's just a reframe. Right? Okay, I have to make my bed. That sounds pretty drab and boring. I'm going to feel the fabric of the bed sheets. I'm going to appreciate the thread count. I'm going to see how beautiful and symmetrical it is when it looks all taut and tight on the bed. I love the smell of fresh, cushions and covers on my pillows. That is a sensory experience. That is a joyful experience. The same activity, but suddenly it sounds amazing. Make my bed all day long. And in our senses, this is the key to making any task enjoyable, is to focus on the experience of it, the sensations of it. Our senses, our five senses, is what keeps us present and keeps these busy words as noise at bay, and it focuses on what you're experiencing right now. It's that simple. Feeling, touching, tasting, smelling, hearing, seeing. Its life is always reaching out to us. It's like you can look around and it's just like it's trying to grab us through our senses and pull us into the detail of the present moment. And the only thing that creates distance is us judging it, labeling it, and saying, I don't like that, that's not good enough, it's different than I thought it should be. Distance. Let it pull you in. We don't have to do much work here. This is not meant to be a place of hard labor. Life really is easy when we're just being and experiencing. I call it experiencing, being in our awareness. All right. Part of it is understanding challenges and what your skill set is. Depending if you're working in a big company, for example, being able to delegate is an important task. Don't do things that are just plain boring or beyond, you did them 20 years ago. You don't need to do those now. There are others who are at their station in life are more appropriate for that. So I don't know if that applies here. But know your skill set, know what invigorates you, know where you feel there could be growth opportunity, learning opportunity. Ooh, I want to try something new, I want to do this. Do I have to look up a tutorial on YouTube? Whatever it is, it should be driven by curiosity. That will keep the task fresh. There's so much danger in doing something for an outcome. That's how we get bored. This is how we lose the lust of life. And we lose sight of enjoying the process. And we just sacrifice our joy now for some supposedly happy moment in the future. This is the thing that gets us all the time. I'm going to do this, even though I don't like it or love it, in order to get to somewhere else. I read somewhere recently that if you don't enjoy the process, you're certainly not going to enjoy the outcome. The more you sacrifice on the way, the more this outcome needs to be just the most amazing thing ever to offset all the sacrifice. And it's just not going to live up to that. It's already not the purpose of the outcome. Outcomes happen while living. It's not an endpoint where everything just stops, where the circumstances of your life suddenly are in place and never change again. That day will never come. All right, so our next exercise, this is something you can jot down again, is list your top priorities and the challenge skill balance in approaching these top priorities and how to get them done best. Sometimes it's you doing it. Sometimes it's asking for a friend for a favor. Sometimes it's paying somebody. Like, how do you prioritize things that need to get done in a way that engages you the most? It's a little more complex here. So if there's a task that isn't, yes?
Just a question on the challenge skill balance. I don't know what that is.
So another way of saying it, what's the best use of your time? In what way are you most engaged so that you're not doing something that, okay, I can make my bed every morning, that's great. Is that my best use of time? Is if I have other responsibilities, leading a meditation class, should I sacrifice the meditation class so I can make my bed? That's the assessment there is like, okay, no, I'm going to either make my bed earlier in the day or get somebody to help me with that, or just create your priorities list in a way that is, if you pictured your ideal day. This is not, again, don't think of outcomes, but it's like, okay, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to pour myself my favorite cup of coffee, and that gets me in the mood of wakes me up and creativity flowing. I'm going to put my phone away, which we just talked a moment ago. How do you optimize and stay engaged in your list of priorities in such a way that you just can't wait for the day to get started? feeling challenged in a delightful, invigorating way. Never overwhelm, but find that place of curiosity and tension and growth. The sequence of things is important. I'm curious to hear more about how the experience of letting go of the planning resulted in higher productivity, which to the mind, that's antithetical. Okay, letting go of control resulted in a better experience, a better product.
Yeah, for me, I noticed like that I need to start like only in the morning, and then I need to like plan, but just like those things which are just directly ahead of me, like the day, and that's it. And like I do like deep work in the morning, and I have like an app, it's called Open, and it just blocks my smartphone for like hours. And also like my desktop to have it like clean, and so I just got like a clean interface and everything, and then I just follow step by step, and like in the afternoon when I'm like done, and then I start like the easy tasks. I think that's what helped me a lot. And then like on the weekends have fun.
Yeah, that does sound like a formula for productivity and success and staying focused. I don't know if it's on one of the following slides, but focusing on one task at a time. If you jump around between the tasks, it's like jumping between browser tabs. It's crazy making. It's crazy making. The mind can only hold on to 5 things at a time anyways. So if you're trying to remember this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing, by the 6th time you're already replacing the first one, and it just gets overwhelming very quickly. So training yourself like you did, and the practical aspect of it is just clean desktop interface, not looking at clutter leads to more clutter, but actually reinforcing that sense of focus. And those apps are awesome. Yeah, nice. Very cool. Awesome. Anyone else have any good tips or tricks how to streamline and optimize your day? Yeah, you were writing a lot?
Well, I was writing a lot because I was going a little bit back and forth. The outcome was pretty much like a cake, with different percentages, like how much time do I want to invest on time for myself, time for individuals, time for the community, and the last thing I wrote is dedicated flow time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Yeah, we have so many tools, so many ways to express and capture what we want in a cake, pie chart, and it's wonderful. All right, cool. We'll move on to the next. All right. The primary obstacle, even when we have the perfect environment, when we've set ourselves up, clean desktop, quiet environment, no interruptions, no email pings or instant messages, there's still, at the end of all of that, of the practical work environment place, there's still the mind. That is the final obstacle to staying focused. Do an exercise now, if you haven't done it already in other classes around town. You'll learn very quickly just how fickle this monkey mind is. You can't spend more than a few seconds staying focused on, in this case, our breath, without the mind starting to drift, pull your attention away into something else. And at first, I remember for me, this was mind-opening and shocking in a way, because it's a miracle we've come this far with this monkey mind, that one moment thinks one thing is the solution, and the next moment it thinks something else. How did we even get anything done in life if we can't stay focused? This, by the way, spills directly into your ability to manifest your best life. We think we want something, oh yeah, this is going to be great. But you're not holding a frequency long enough and consistency enough for the world around you to catch up to your desire. Every few seconds you're thinking of something else. What kind of message does that send? You can't stay focused long enough for the world to catch up to your desires. So, becoming aware of that monkey mind. Again, it's not shutting down thoughts. It's not limiting thoughts or pushing them away. In fact, that's just resistance again. It's learning to accept my mind has drifted, and bring your attention to where you want it to be. Acceptance, taking action. That's what we're going to do right now. All right. Yeah, can you dim it? Nice. That's good enough. That's good. Okay. All right. So we're going to do a little 10-minute meditation. And I will guide you through the whole thing. So you just have to listen, hear my voice. And ideally you find a comfortable position and sit up straight, because the energy flows through our spine. It's the primary conduct. With our eyes and mouth closed, focus your attention on the incoming and outgoing breath at the entrance of your nostrils. If you have trouble locating your breath, you may breathe slightly harder once or twice. And once you feel the touch of your breath, return to normal breath, natural breath. Let the detail of your breath pull you in closer. Closer into the present moment. If your breath is shallow, let it be shallow. If it's deep, let it be deep. If it's more in the left nostril, let it be the left nostril. If it's more in the right nostril, let it be the right nostril. or if it's in both nostrils. Let it be both. Just observe what is. Notice the temperature of the incoming breath. Notice the temperature of the outgoing breath. And notice if there's a difference. Notice the pace of the incoming breath. Notice the pace of the outgoing breath. Notice if there's a difference. Notice the length of the incoming breath. Notice the length of the outgoing breath. Notice if there's a difference. Notice the gap at the end of your inhale. Notice the gap at the end of your exhale. Notice the transition. And whenever you find that your mind has wandered, simply notice it. And without frustration, without resistance, but with pure acceptance, bring your attention back to the incoming and outgoing breath at the entrance of your nostrils. Natural breath, normal breath. Observe your breath as it is, without wanting it to be different. Now gradually bring your attention back to this room. Slowly blink open your eyes. Notice your environment. Notice yourself in your environment. Notice the energy in your body. Notice your aliveness. Oh. 10 minutes, super powerful. Just reconnecting to your breath. Maybe right before you go into a meeting or a difficult phone call, or somebody shows up late for a meeting and you use that minute or two that you have, unexpected time, just to ground yourself. If you're an athlete, right before an important moment, focus on that breath. Just feel the touch of your breath. That is the present moment. Brings your attention out of the busy mind into the awareness of yourself. It's changed my life. Meditation is practical, it's useful. It's like going to the gym. You're going to a dedicated place to train, surrounded by others, the right equipment, environment. But ultimately, it's a state of being that we bring into every situation. You don't leave the gym and suddenly lose all the muscles you developed. You now apply them in the rest of your day. So same thing with meditation is you don't just sit and then get up and then go back to your stressful ways of overthinking and overplanning. But rather, stay grounded, stay connected to your body. It's where your wisdom, your intuition, your inner voice. It's a built-in GPS. Life is so simple. If we use it the way it's meant to be used, if we live the way we're meant to live, we don't have to figure it all out. The mind is a great tool, but all it can do is compare. It can give you a ton of choices, but it doesn't know which choice is the right one for you. You need your intuition for that. Okay. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about. Productive rest. Anyone heard of productive rest before? Yes? I was doing this for the longest time and I didn't know there was a word for it until recently. I read about it. It's more on LinkedIn, I think. It's like, oh my gosh, I've been doing that all my life. Actually, I heard a professional female skier talk about it. They were asking her on film how does she do all these things? She's also a model, she's a pro athlete, she has a job, she's a single mom, all these things. And she's like, well, no, I've surrounded myself with things that I enjoy doing that give the other parts that I enjoy doing rest while I'm doing the other thing. And so this requires you to be really in tune with yourself. What are your passions? Everything we've talked about today is like what inspires you. There's different parts of us that can be inspired by different ways. For me, I have coding, computer work, which I'll always do. I love the logic of that. I have the spiritual dimension of meditation and giving classes in that way and being of service. I have tennis, which is my physical exertion. I have music. I love to play piano. Whenever I feel I'm reaching the end of my energy with one of these areas, I go do another thing. And then I'm productive there, and I'm giving the other stuff rest. And then when I feel like, okay, I've kind of done enough here, then I move to the next thing. As long as you have 2, 3, 4 things, you can easily fill your day and be optimally effective, constantly producing. Occasionally, you will just need a day off and just do nothing. And that's okay too. But to work, and then fall over, numb out, or just pass out from the exhaustion and burnout, that's not a good way to go. It doesn't last very long. It'll catch up with you very quickly. You'll lose your lust for life. You'll affect not just yourself, but those around you, your family members. You're imprinting them with this. I was very lucky to have parents who only supported my passions. There's anything that I showed interest in as a toddler, they somehow made it happen. We didn't have any money, but they made it happen. They set their intention to it, and then was able to keep playing and keep exploring. So in this exercise, spend a few minutes thinking about your passions and how you could create a day in which you're doing all of it in a way that when you're doing one thing, you're giving the other parts of you rest, and then you can switch over, and you do that in an intense and engaged way, and you're resting in these other ways. So just a few things. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be expert at something, but what are ways to stay engaged, really inspired with everything you do all day long? It could be chatter hour with your best friends. It could be coding. It could be reading a book. It could be cooking. Oh my God, cooking. It blows my mind. It's endless creativity. So it doesn't have to be these standout things. It's the beauty of life is found in the simple things. And being present with whatever you're doing. You can find joy in folding your clothes. Washing the dishes. Ironing. I did a podcast, my Instagram, if you scroll back all the way, a couple years back, there was me. I would iron my clothes and do these talks, just 30-second or minute-long reels. And somebody saw this, and the followers started calling me Iron Man. Apparently it's not so common to see a guy ironing, and then just, anyway, it was funny. It took on a life of its own. Never even thought of that. So spend a few minutes. Think about the things that you do. Don't think of them as chores. Again, nothing is a chore when you have the choice of how to approach it. That's the first thing. But really connect with the things that inspire you the most and structure your ideal day around that. That requires setting boundaries for others who want a piece of you, that want to take up your time. All right. Do you have an example of productive rest?
I think so. I like to start the day with going outside first to walk to the gym to do exercise. Then you have your walk and your sunlight and everything. Your exercise in, and the day hasn't even started yet. Then, like you said, the 4 hour block of work comes then, with probably also breakfast. And I really love food. It's also one of my passions. So I would go to like a nice spot with a lot of like other digital nomads or a co-working space or something where they have nice breakfast options. So like it's more of a combination that way, but still it's like an inspiring environment where you can also work, spend 4 hours, go home and cook and take like all the time, no rush, whatever, maybe do some groceries, everything around food. Then another block of 4 hours in an inspiring environment. And then probably social time with friends.
Wow, that sounds so amazing. Yeah, that is a perfect day. It doesn't require some rocket scientist intelligence to figure out what makes you tick and how to break things up, right? Maybe you have that beautiful, inspiring breakfast meal in between somewhere in there or whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be the same thing every day either. So stay flexible in that. Like, well, today I feel like either maybe different type of breakfast, or today I'm just going to skip breakfast. There's still, you want to stay flexible throughout all of this. Yeah, I mean, just listening to that, I get inspired. I want to do that. Yeah. Movement is so important. I've done 15 of the 10-day Vipassanas. Anyone familiar with those? And some of them have extensive walking paths. Some of them don't have as many. And the greatest insights I've had were always during movement, always during walking. You can sit 10 hours a day and maybe, it kind of breaks things up, but it really doesn't start leaving you and moving you, and your inner wisdom doesn't really arise until you start moving. And so movement, starting your day with that, the energy is fun. I mean, it's common sense, right? You're getting energy going and flowing. And to be in your body, I mean, look at pro athletes, how they're Amazon people. They're so focused on being in their bodies. They're so embodied. Look what that does to a person's aura. You don't have to, everyone doesn't need to be a pro athlete, but to have an element of that in your life is absolutely crucial. It's from beginning to end.
I'm just thinking Google engineers don't start before 11 because all of the things they have to do before they can finally start coding. It's like first jogging and then meditating and then there's scrambled eggs another time. You can finally reach that it's 11 a.m. and they're in their seats.
Now you know. Now you know why. Kim Eng, Eckhart Tolle's partner, talks about how she doesn't start work till 1 o'clock. She has this whole routine leading up to that to make it a quality day. Awesome. Do you have like an ideal day in mind?
It's not set in motion yet, but from tomorrow, ideally, and get up and go for a walk. Then enjoy the sun. Then have breakfast as well. And then by noon, start working for a 4-hour walk. And then the evening socials as well.
Nice. Yeah. And I don't see any blockers there from you doing that.
No.
Yeah. Sun is so important. I get a lot of people come to me, especially for the one-on-one healing sessions, that are suffering from depression. And I have personal experience with depression, but also have people in this field, in the space, practitioners and experts. And sun, 10 minutes of sun, direct sun, is one of the key ingredients to keeping you healthy and your mood up. So getting a heavy dose of sun is important to just keep our mood going. It's all the common things: good sleep, good rest, eating well, high quality food, just being conscious living. These are the things that lead to healthy living. And it doesn't require that much overthinking and synthetic ingredients. So great. Well, we're sending you all the vibes necessary for you to get up in the morning and do all that and have the perfect day. Yeah, nice. There's so much wisdom that can come to us if we stop trying to figure it out constantly. We can't imagine all the twists and turns that life can take. And having glimpses of that intuitive, like, oh, I'd love to, a hit of desire, such as a guitar, and then it shows up. This is not an anomaly. This is not a coincidence. This is your vibration, and then you see it. It's like going car shopping. You set your heart on I want this particular model. Suddenly you see them everywhere. Before you never saw it. It's just our tuning. We want to learn to tune ourselves to things that resonate, things that we can stay engaged and rest other parts of ourselves. This productive resting is very, very effective and keeps you moving forward, positive momentum. All right, cool. What's after this? Okay, yeah, self-care. We touched on a lot of this. Everyone's perfect day actually involves some of this, right? The self-care is integral to a perfect day. Feeling good about your activity, feeling like you're applying yourself in a meaningful way is self-care. There's not a separate self-care of like, okay, I'm going to go get a massage or read a book, and then you do the abusive stuff, like your job or dealing with complicated people. You want to be engaged as fully as possible. This is your life. Set boundaries. Don't spend time. Be vigilant. Don't spend time on things that don't resonate. It doesn't pan out to your benefit. Never. And sometimes we have to have some courage and some repeated tries to learn that lesson, and that's normal. It's part of the journey. If it doesn't resonate, it won't last. It doesn't matter how much prestige or money or whatever it is that you're getting from it, security and safety. If you don't enjoy yourself, you're going to hate your life. So self-care practice, everyone here is already aware of that. Some places I talk, this is a new thing, a novel thing. It says, how dare one think about taking care of oneself? But yeah, that's the state of much of the world. Right? You're being selfish for thinking of yourself. Yeah. The design of life is such as that we work on ourselves first. Fill your cup first, and then from the overflow you can help others. In the airplane, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help others. You can't love others until you love yourself first. If you don't love yourself fully, then you have lack, and then you make decisions, you manifest these situations, relationships, sometimes decades of situations that sprung up from this lack. And yet you're seeking yourself, your completion, your happiness, your fulfillment in these situations. And all it was a void inside of you.
Generations. Not decades, generations.
Generations, yeah. So, with more awareness, we become more in tune with what's our inner world like. Where do I feel triggered? Triggers point to things that need healing. It's not about whatever triggered you, I want to avoid that from now on. They're a teacher. The people, places, and things that annoy us are our teachers. And so to reframe that's why I call it mind shifter, reframer in the beginning, is to take our daily situations and actually recognize that challenges are here to make us grow. Life isn't trying to annoy us. It's not trying to pesky and make us miserable for just no reason. It doesn't want us to stay small. It wants us to grow and be whole and not feel triggered by stuff that happens in our environment. To be independent, to be no longer at the mercy of our environment and how it makes us feel. It wants us to be whole and complete. So it will keep triggering us through a variety of ways, other people, other situations, until we learn that lesson. That it's not the situation, it's something inside that needs attention, usually self-care, self-love, something that needs to be healed. So this life journey that we're on, we need to adopt the mindset of a student. We are the student and life is the teacher. It's not about being perfect. It's not being Superman or Wonder Woman. It's not about trying to figure it all out, create this plan, and my whole life is going to unfold according to this plan. It's amazing that we even pretend that that's possible. It's because no one's shown us a different way. Most of the world, especially the West, is caught up in the mental lens of things, the mental interpretation, the judgment, the mind-driven life. And the mind can justify any course of action, make you believe one thing or the next thing. You get sucked into ideologies. It's an illness. Eckhart Tolle calls overthinking a disease. And because everyone's doing it, nobody notices it. So awareness, noticing as we were doing our meditation, the word notice over and over and over. Just notice. Just notice how you're feeling. Notice if something resonates or it doesn't. Notice your thoughts. Noticing means you're on the side of awareness. Noticing means you're not identified. If you can just remember this little bit when you walk out and just like, okay, notice, notice, notice. Notice what somebody's intention is when they come talk to you. So you don't get embroiled in a war of opinions. Give them their experience. Let them have what they need to feel heard and feel seen. It's not about you. Just notice. You'll improve your life, improve the life of others. You'll set yourself up for abundance, receiving mode, seeing opportunities that you would otherwise be closed off to. Set yourself up to being able to create that perfect day, that ideal unfolding, that flow that we always take ourselves out of when we're trying to control and steer everything. So we just need self-knowledge, self-realization for that. And as we come out of our own healing, out of the selfishness, something happens. There comes a point when suddenly it's no longer about you. You've done the work. You've done the work to relieve yourself of most of the triggers. The work never ends, but you've done enough work so that you can suddenly start opening up and be of service to others. It's really the most beautiful design of life. We're supposed to focus on ourselves, put ourselves into a position of strength and wisdom. From that place, we can be role models and guides for others. So keep focusing on yourselves. Okay, I think a final quote. Oh, not focused. That is the way to learn most. That when you are doing something with such enjoyment that you don't notice, but the time passes. This is a letter from Albert Einstein to his 11-year-old son. Enjoyment, bliss, resonance. And that's it. I thank you all.